All right. Well, we continue on our way through our discussions on the architecture of reality. And today I want to talk about what does it mean to think of man as a microcosm of a mini version of the cosmos or a small cosmos in themselves that reflects the larger cosmos of all of creation. Because this is it's an inescapable concept. There's a handful of inescapable concepts out there. Everyone believes we're made in the image of God, but there's a disagreement about which God. The whatever we believe to be the God of the system, we will immediately begin talking about ourselves in that way and in that with the same concept. Um, but it's the same with the cosmos. What kind of place this is ends up telling us what kind of creature we are, and the other way around. What kind of creature we believe ourselves to be ends up being reflected in what kind of thing we believe the cosmos to be as a whole. And the idea of the man as a microcosm is all throughout the writings of history until very recently. It disappeared from the conversation. You've got all the way back in Plato's Timaeus. You begin this idea that humans are microcosms. They reflect the structure and the nature of the universe. And it was just it's just always been a popular topic or a thing to reflect on among philosophers, theologians, even scientists, up through the late Renaissance into really into the Enlightenment. You have this discussion where humanity is a smaller version of the cosmos, both materially, spiritually. Plato, in his Timaeus, says the soul and body mirror the structure of the cosmos. Even going so far as to saying that he suspects that there's a world soul. That nature as a whole has a soul. The goddess nature, something along those lines. Aristotle, in his book On the Soul, which is a strange and interesting read, he says that order within, you've got order, nature is ordered, there are natural laws, but that the human being is also, when it's living properly, comes in line with the natural laws, and the order within nature ends up reflecting the intended order of the human soul. Um, Plotinus, he saw, so he believed that all was one, and that the human soul was an ultimate divine reflection of the one, so that if we understand the soul, we are understanding the greater reality of the universe, right? And so you this idea, it's really there's a lot of it in ancient philosophy, and it is a part of the discussion throughout the Middle Ages. What does it mean? You see some guys like a lot of paintings of uh, what does the whole universe look like, and how does man, as the center point of knowledge, not necessarily the center of the universe, but the center point of knowledge of the universe, how does that end up teaching us what the whole universe is like? And you have it in Florence in Italy. The idea really starts to take shape a lot. You've got a Renaissance physician named Paracelsus or Paracelsus, who wrote significantly or and a lot on the idea that humans are microcosms of the universe, and he's really writing about medicine, alchemy to a certain extent. And he argues that every aspect of the cosmos is reflected in the human body and in the soul. And that healing involves restoring harmony within the structures of our body, so that it reflects the cosmos again, that it comes back in line with the intended order of the cosmos. The Ficino, Ficino, was a Renaissance philosopher. He was a translator of Plato, so a lot of Plato's works sort of disappear and then they come back in the Renaissance. They disappear from the West and they come back in the Renaissance. They're rediscovered. There's a significant move amongst who were called the Christian humanists. I mean, they were just called the humanists until the secular humanists came along, and then they had to start calling themselves the Christian humanists. But they were really interested in finding all the books and making sure that the books were translated, finding all the books and making sure they were available. And Ficino was one of the people who made sure that Plato and the works of Plato that had disappeared from the conversation were returned. And he really said the human soul is the place of connection between the material and spiritual worlds, so that the divine principles that ordered the world also were supposed to order the human soul, right? So so far we're not dealing with a Christian idea at all of the microcosm. We're just kind of going through all of the places, the influential places where it's talked about, because you start also, it starts splitting off into a couple of different directions, because you really start to see a post-Renaissance, when you start getting secular humanism, you start getting magic again, like in the late 1400s, early 1500s. The idea that you might run into a magician in the street in 1250 was pretty unheard of. You don't have much magic in the Middle Ages, or really anything that what we would call magic. You don't really have any of it in the Middle Ages. It really shows up with the secular humanists, who start trying to say, well, can we get control of this place with magic? And so you get On Magic by Giordano Bruno, who expands this microcosm idea amongst the secular humanists, saying humans are reflections of an infinite universe and countless worlds, right? So he sort of he births the idea of a multiverse. So we see it in comic books all the time now, but it really comes out of this late Renaissance magician who. So he's kind of I guess you'd say he's the Doctor Strange of Italy, and so you've got this cosmic. There's this cosmic unity, and that the unity is held together through a understanding, right? So it's kind of a Gnostic magic understanding. You've got a multiverse, and the thing that holds it all together is when you understand yourself, then you can tap into kind of the universal spirit that exists across all the worlds. Jacob Boehme is the one who brings the idea from Italy out to the rest of Europe. He explored the idea of the microcosm, but for him it was more mystical in prayer. Humans have all the elements of the cosmos within them, and are a reflection of divine order. So we are little microcosms, and the same way that God divinely orders the world, as we come in contact with God, we are reordered to reflect in a way that reflects the way God runs the cosmos. So the cosmos stays in submission to God and is ordered by him. Well, we are reordered, and as we move towards God, we are reordered into the divine order, and so then that's how we become it's the ordering of us that reflects the cosmos, not so much the physical. It's the physical elements, because of our disordered lives. The physical elements within us get disordered, and but then when our lives are properly ordered back with God, then the physical elements even come back in line. And then you've got as it spreads through other parts of Europe, you've got much more Christian versions of this understanding. So Thomas Brown wrote The Christian Physician. It is a medical manual. He's a 17th century. He's really a polymath, knew everything, and he writes a book about the humans as a microcosm, that humans reflect the universe's order, but also the mystery, right? That there are things in our body that are really strange processes, and they happen, out of sight. We don't see them, but they continue to work, and there's a deep microcosm within each person reflecting the order and the mystery of the way God has created the world, and that the work. So his argument is that the work of a physician to bring the body to health could be seen as a divine calling, right? You were a minister of God's grace, into while working on the health of the body of someone, because the body itself was something intended to reflect the universe's order and mystery, and that sin corrupts it, sin disorders it, but working as a physician to bring it back in line with it, so that it functions the way a cosmos should, means that medicine is a ministerial calling, right? And you see this in that it ends up coming to be reflected in the laws, where there are and in the titles, there are certain jobs that you're able to do even on the Sabbath in the laws of the Middle Ages. In common law is really where I'm familiar. And it's laws that are considered ministries still. So the police, the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Protection, the doctors, the Ministry of Health, and ministers of the Word and Sacrament all get exempted from what come to be called blue laws, laws about the Sabbath, because they're considered direct ministries. Well, that argument, a lot of that comes out of and is informed by Thomas Brown's book about the Christian physician, and how restoring health is a divine, or is restoring divine order. And so, and they did it in different ways. They all talked about it in different sorts of ways. But you have in the Middle Ages, they talked to, and all the way back to Galen, the physician of Greece. They talk about it in terms of the four humors. You've got aligned with the four elements: air, water, fire, and earth. That the whole world is made up of these four elements, and our body has four humors, and their qualities are similar. And so the same sort of way you would put the world right by having balanced elements in their proper place, the body is put right by having its four elements in their proper ratios. But whether or not that particular scientific understanding is right or not, right, it has all sorts of problems. What is definitely true throughout history is the way, the kind of thing that you think the universe is, you end up coming to understand yourself that way. So the way that Chesterton puts it is, you can't remake man without first remaking the heavens, right? That there's a deep connection between what kind of world we think we live in and what kind of creature we think we are. And that is this idea of the microcosm. You see people working out the details of what that means, but it's indefatigable throughout history that is what happens. So when there was an understanding that the world was ordered by natural principles by God ordained principles, then the assumption was we ought to be ruled that way, right? We ought to be ordered properly. All of that was reflected in us. We respond to what kind of world we think we live in. And when the world began to be seen as not having a nature, as held in place by power, the mankind and society really shifts to understanding that man has to be controlled by power, right? That power is what keeps society in place. That it isn't kept in place by honor. It isn't kept in place by submission. It's kept in place top down. So, in fact, the word submission ends up shifting its meaning from something that the person at the bottom does towards the person at the top in a covenant relationship, right? The subject submits to the covenant head, right? That was when you talk about submission, that's the direction that submission goes. Well, that word shifts its meaning to something that the covenant head does to the covenant subject. So, and that happens when it after the shift from, or it happens alongside the shift in this understanding of the world from an understanding of a place where we are coming in line with nature's laws, nature's God and nature's laws, to there being no ontology, no nature, no being, and this place is kept in line by power. And so there's a great book on it called The Heavenly City of the 18th Century Philosophers, and it just tracks the changing definitions of some of these words, law and nature, this changing definition. Well, right along that time, you have it actually, it's a weird thing to even, because the verb submit, it doesn't actually make sense to apply it to the covenant head, but that's how it comes to be applied, right? So it comes to be used, but because it's a shifting idea. So the medieval idea, this is where we have a really hard time understanding feudalism, but it rests on a fully different understanding of the world. So in feudalism, we say, well, look, those people were basically slaves, but they were actually much freer than we understand ourselves to be, because you choose your lord, right? And you choose your lord over and over and over, and there's rituals and rites that give a family the opportunity to continually re-choose their lord. I am choosing to submit to you. That's how the theory was understood. And so when you have when you get to America, there's the founding of America, you have a similar sort of understanding that says, well, there's no taxation without representation. We have our governments over here who are taxing us. The English government can't tax us over there. They're not the ones that we have submitted ourselves to, so they can't tax us. We have submitted ourselves here and sent our representatives here to be able to tax us here, but we're not English. We're not citizens of that. We don't have a representative there, so we're not citizens of that English government over there. The king is our king, and then we have our government over here that we have submitted ourselves to. But you have this changing understanding that says, well, if whoever's the most powerful, whoever can tell people to do the thing they don't want to do, that's who's in charge. And as that idea is shifting in the Enlightenment, you start getting all of the attempts you start getting all of the revolutions, right? You start getting what a revolution is in one generation, you have a shift of the kind of government a place has, right? So you get a whole series of revolutions where governmental systems shift and change to power-based governments, right? Away from submission-based governments to power-based governments. And that's because we are a microcosm of the kind of universe. We are a microcosm of the universe. So when our understanding of the universe shifts, our understanding of the kind of creature we are changes, and we will reorganize ourselves according to the new principles. So it's a really important idea, and it's an inescapable idea.